All right, hello and welcome back to Real Seekers. I'm your host, Dale, the Real Seeker, and today I have a special treat for you guys. I'm joined by uh, Olivier. I don't know how to say the last name, Bonnassies.
Bonassi, yes, that's it.
All right, awesome. So, yeah, he's actually got a new book. He's co-authored a new book on one of my favorite topics. There it is: God, the science, the evidence, the dawn of okay, and and it's on the existence of God, general theism, and I think this is an important debate. So, I just want to say welcome to the show, Olivier, and I hope you're doing well on your end.
Thank you very much. Yes, it's about a very fundamental question. Is there a creator God or not? And of course, it's a fundamental and decisive issue, but it's also a passionate and emotional issue. And we are trying to look at this in a rational point of view. Uh,
Absolutely.
so, and we, yes, this book is on this very limited question: is there a creator God? We are not dealing with who is God, what does he want, what does he say, how to live with him. No, no, it's not a book about religion or faith. It's a book about knowledge, and we are looking at 12 distinct and independent fields of knowledge, and we are making an investigation. Is the thesis God exists or the other God does not exist? What is the most rational? And this is our own compass.
Awesome. And if you don't mind, just so the audience can maybe get to know you, do you want to briefly just, who are you? Like, what's sort of your background? And if you don't mind disclosing, I know the book's not about religion per se, but what is your sort of faith background as well, just so people know?
Yes, so I'm 59. I'm married. I have six children and now eight grandchildren. And I was not a believer when I was 20. I was not an atheist, but agnostic. So I thought that people who believe were irrational people. And but I did not work a lot on this issue. And one day I create a company. It works very well, and I earn a lot of money. Enfin, not a lot, but much more than what I was expected.
Mhm.
And in this moment, I was very happy at the beginning, but after a while, I was not so. It was not a complete happiness. So I asked myself, what is the goal of this life? What are we doing there? Where are we come from? What and we go for where? I don't. I was asking me the big questions, and I thought there is no answer to such questions because I told myself if answer exists, everybody should know it and tell me. But after a while, a Catholic gave me a book about rational reasons to believe in God and in Jesus. And I took the book in order to find the flow, to find why it does not work. And after a few weeks, a few months, a few years, uh, digging on this, I discovered that it exists a lot of very strong and rational reasons to believe in God and in Jesus. So it changed my life. It changed my. I was in a scientific school, the best scientific school in France, but I went to work on theology for 4 years, and it changed a lot because all the projects that I developed after were linked to God and to the church. So it was a complete change for me and also for my family because after this, my father converted, my mother also, my brothers and sisters and cousins also. And at the end, my little brother became a priest. So God made a strike in the family.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, that sounds great. So yeah, I want to kind of transition to the subject of your book. And I noted in some of the interviews your co-author did, the topic of materialism came up because even within my audience, I have some atheists and stuff, and they preach this doctrine of materialism, and they say it's totally anti-scientific, and you can't have proof for God or something like that. He's not a material object. So, how would you address people that think materialism is still a good worldview?
Yes, I think we have to do what we are doing with this book. It's an investigation with a comprehensive overview of all the fields that can give us an answer to this question. And because of the progress of knowledge, this question is now being framed in completely new terms, and the public remains largely unaware of this. In fact, in this book, we have two messages. The first one is that there is a remarkable convergence of evidence across all fields, suggesting that materialism appears increasingly as an irrational belief. And second, our research led us to focus on science, because for centuries, science seemed to be able to explain the world without the hypothesis of God. And but the things change, and we have what we call now a great reversal in science. I will explain you all this.
Mhm.
Um, and it changed a lot. And at the conclusion of our book is that materialism has become an irrational belief. It's very hard to be consistent materialist in our world today. That's our conclusion. Of course, our book is an investigation, so we are presenting the case in 12 different fields to the readers, and everybody will choose freely what he will decide. But for us, it's more and more clear. And the reason why we can make this investigation is that there is three key things. The first one is that the two theses, God exists, God does not exist, have real world implications. It means that, for example, if God does not exist, 100% of the atheists, of the philosophers, the scholars, everybody who is atheist now and in the past, must believe that our universe exists in an infinite amount of time in the past,
Right.
that is eternal. Because if there is a beginning, there is a God. We will develop this perhaps if you want, but it's a key point. And there is many others. For example, if God does not exist, chance and random is the only way physics and biology is working, and you have it does not exist any good or evil. You have no revelation, no prophecies, no miracles, things like this. Those are key implications of the thesis God does not exist. And the second point is that because of this, it's not a matter of faith, it's a matter of knowledge, therefore of evidence. Because we have to look at the real world and see if the implications are more in favor of one thesis or the other. And the third point is that there is a huge progress of knowledge in every field today, in science, but not only in science, also in history, in philosophy, in everywhere. And we can share it with internet and the modern means of communications. So things are coming more and more clear, increasingly clear. So this binary question, there is a God or there is not a God, it's a binary question. For us, it's more and more clear because all the conclusions that we can make because of the progress of the knowledge are converging in every field in the same direction. So that's why at the end we said that this book is not about faith or religion, but it's about knowledge, and the knowledge leads us vers something very clear. We wanted to be very easy to read and very accessible for the people, for the ordinary people, but also very accurate and very up to date. And that's why we work a lot, and the book was reviewed by many people And at the end, in Europe, I don't know what will happen in the US, but in Europe, it has a very important impact, and many people discovered that materialism is an irrational belief today.
Absolutely, absolutely. I fully agree, and yeah, I think it's very timely to have books like this. It's really important to know that we have it's based on the evidence and it's rational to believe in theism and stuff like that. So, all right, well, let's kind of turn to some of this scientific evidence because I know you mentioned you guys look at 12 fields, and I think in your book, from my understanding, you group the evidence into six different groups, if I'm not mistaken there. And one of those groups is obviously very fashionable. It's the issue of cosmology, right? So the origin of the universe and the fine tuning of the universe and stuff like this. And this is evidence pointing to God. Do you just want to, what is some of the latest evidence in that specific field or that part that you think really proves God exists?
Yes, we we have what we call in science a great reversal, because as I said in the beginning, for 4 centuries, from Copernicus to Freud, and Darwin and Galileo, Newton, science seems to be able to explain the world without the hypothesis of God. And at the end of this curve, Marx and Freud, who claimed to be scientists, said that religion was toxic and it was the opium of the people. So, because of all this, a very strong materialist and scientific current, intellectual current, dominated in the past. But things have changed because of 5 or 6 incredible scientific revolutions that converge into, if we can make the summary, into 4 key facts. The first one is Einstein. Einstein demonstrated that we live in what we can call a space-time, in which space, time, and matter are inextricably linked. And it's very important because you cannot, in the real world, you cannot imagine time without the two others. That's the first point. The second point is that all this had a beginning. It's not only the Big Bang theory, it's 7 different scientific or rational approaches that converge to say that it's impossible that there is an infinite amount of time in the past. Third, as you said, there is a fine-tuning, an incredible fine-tuning, not only in the laws of quantum mechanics, physics, chemistry, and biology, but also in the 4 forces of the universe, their value and their ratio, and also in the initial data of the universe. Incredible. So with those 3 things, you can conclude something very strong, because what is the most natural is to say that if there is a beginning of time, space, and matter together, the emergence of the 3 is not only the emergence of time and matter, it's also the emergence of space. So it's totally crazy, because as soon as you have space, you have time and matter. So the beginning, if there is an absolute beginning, and we can discuss this after, the beginning is the beginning of space, which means that the cause at the origin of this emergence is outside time, outside space, and outside matter. It is transcendent, and it has the power to create everything what exists, and also to adjust and calibrate everything so that the fine-tuning of the universe could allow one day complex life to come into being. All this draw the picture of what philosophy and religion call God, a transcendent being outside the universe, not temporal, not spatial, not material, that had the power to create everything and to all the fine settings that could allow us to be there one day. So we are very close to the definition of God. And what are the alternatives? It's the point number 4, because what is new is that all the alternatives that try to avoid the God hypothesis to explain all this have so far failed or are very difficult to sustain. and I'm speaking of, for example, the multiverse, you have, for the atheist, you have two problems. You have the problem of the beginning and the problem of the fine-tuning. To explain the incredible fine-tuning of the universe, there is only one explanation that you can give is that we have a chance because there is a lot of universe, what we call the multiverse, an incredible number of universes, and we are in the lucky one. Okay, that's the answer of the atheist. But the problem is that this answer does not work for four reasons. The first one is that it's 100% speculative and unfalsifiable, so it's not science, in fact. Second, it cannot explain the beauty and the harmony of our universe, because you can imagine a setting of the laws of the universe that that allows us to exist and things to work, but it has no chance to be beautiful and harmonious. The beauty and the harmony of the universe is something that, at the end, the multiverse cannot really explain. Third, as we said, when we are working in physics to explain the kind of improbabilities that we have for the fine-tunings, you have to imagine, like the string theory, for example, that there is 10 to the power of 500 universes somewhere. But the problem is that 10 to the power of 500 is an incredible number. If just to show you, to make you touch what is this number, if I ask you to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 like this in order to reach 1 billion night and day, you will need to count during 30 years. If you have to count to a billion of billion, you will have to count during 2 times the length of the universe. And if you have to count to a billion of billion, you will have to count during 2 billion times the duration of the universe. So it's, in fact, and at this moment, you are at 10 to the power of 27. You just imagine what is a billion, what is 1 to the power of 500. If you are an atheist, you need only for the problem of the fine-tuning, because it solves absolutely not the problem of the beginning. You have to say that there is such an incredible, a staggering number of universes that exist in real somewhere. You have to believe this. Is it reasonable? Not sure. But there is another very last but not least argument against the multiverse. It's the fact that if there is a natural process, a machine that creates universes in such a staggering number, this machine should be fine-tuned. Because if you have to find the constants of the universe in a very tiny range between 0 and the infinite, you have no chance to target the good range. You have to, if you have, for example, to find the gravity at 6.67, the machine will have to target between 2 and 10 or between 5 and 15. But if the range that target the machine is between 20 and 30, you will never find 6.67. So the machine that creates the universes should be fine-tuned, but by whom? That's why Stephen Hawking said that the multiverse is dead. The theory of the multiverse is dead because it supposes another fine-tuning, meta law that we cannot explain at all. So the multiverse was an attempt to answer to the fine-tuning problem. But there is another problem for the atheist. It's the beginning. And the beginning is something crazy, because you cannot imagine, you know, in the past, the first atheist was the Greeks who make theories about atheism. Parmenides, for example. Parmenides postulate a principle that on which 99% of the people are okay, ex nihilo nihil, which means from nothing, nothing can come. If you imagine that one day there was absolutely nothing, uh, nothing could have happened and begin in the past. So, as we have something now, Parmenides concludes very clearly that there was no time where there was nothing. Something has existed forever. And he was an atheist, so he said the universe was there forever, it is eternal, and there is an infinite amount of time in the past. But there is another solution. A God outside the universe is eternal and create a universe that is not eternal. And a lot of rational and scientific approaches said there is a beginning. That's why the question of the beginning is very sensitive, because in our book we have a chapter, very interesting, original chapter about what we call the dark novel of the Big Bang. It's something that existed in real. All the scientists that discovered the Big Bang in Russia, in St. Petersburg, they were persecuted. They were they were in the gulag, in the psychiatric hospitals, and there was an incredible persecution against all the disciples of Friedman, because people working on physics said that there is a beginning, and the atheist, Marxist, and communist regime said that it's impossible, because if there is a beginning, there is a God. So they were persecuted. And it was the same in Germany with Hitler. Einstein has to come to Princeton in order to escape. And all the atheist regime, even in China with Mao Zedong, they were fighting against this idea of the Big Bang, because if there is a Big Bang, if there is a beginning, there is a God. So what are the explanations? What are the alternatives today? Today you have people who said, for example, that Lawrence Krauss, he said that we can imagine a universe coming from nothing. But it's crazy, in fact. And what he called nothing is absolutely not nothing, because space exists, and when you have space, you have laws of the universe. It's absolutely different from nothing. So you have also Stephen Hawking in one of his last books. He said it's possible that the universe was created because there is a force such as gravity. And John Lennox, a friend of us in Oxford, answered, nonsense remains nonsense even when it's a well-known scientist that talk about this.
Yeah.
So,
That
in
was
fact,
that was John Lennox, right? Nonsense remains nonsense, even when spoken by a scientist. Yeah.
yes, exactly. John Lennox is incredible. I like very much this. But in fact, you can say that for the beginning there is no option, because in one moment we were thinking that after the Big Bang you can have a big crunch and a Big Bang and a big crunch and cyclical universes like this. But in fact, it does not work. If you have 7 or 8 cycles, at the end, there is 4 problems. First, the entropy should be at a maximum. Second, black holes should be very numerous. Third, the cosmological constant should dominate. And 4, the irregularities of the former universe should be increased a lot in the next universe. So at the end, you have like a cigar, and it's absolutely not what we have today, because our universe is homogeneous and isotropic. So the hypothesis of an infinite number of cyclic universes in the past is absolutely impossible. So at the end, you have today no explanation. I was in Princeton and in Berkeley with Nobel Prize winners last week, not last week, but 15 days ago. And I spoke with them. I asked them, Saul Perlmutter or John Matter or Jennifer Wiseman, who is in charge of the Hubble telescope. I asked them, can you explain to me what can be a credible hypothesis explaining the beginning of the universe? And they agreed to say that today we have nothing, but it's not only today. It's in principle. You need a cause, and this cause is by definition outside our universe in order to create the beginning of time, space, and matter.
Absolutely.
So, so you know, at the end, what strikes me a lot is that it's very simple. It's very simple. That's why our book was read by very by teenagers and by very ordinary people that said, "Ah, it's at the end, science can be very complex, but the conclusions of science at the end are very clear, very simple. You have a beginning and you have a fine tuning, and everybody answers that you need an intelligence outside the universe to create this. It's the most natural and common conclusion. And in my opinion, it's very strong.
Absolutely. Yeah. Hopefully you won't mind. I do have sort of a specific follow-up question, but just to explain. So there's this thing called the BVG or Board, Guth, and Vilenkin singularity theorem. And this is basically given the evidence, a mathematical proof that the universe had to have a beginning of its existence.
Yes, yes. And you know,
Obviously there are sorry, there are certain exceptions, and you said why those are problematic. I just
very
wanted to
smart.
ask because I know there's been recent work updating it in 2024 by certain authors such as uh Lesnevsky, Eason, and Paul Davies. So I just wanted to know, do you know what was sort of the updates in 2024? Does your book cover that?
Yes, I can tell you that we are speaking a lot, of course, of the Bord, Guth, and Vilenkin theorem, because Vilenkin is an atheist at the beginning, and he made this conclusion that it's not 100%. It's if you have the hypothesis of a global inflation of the universe, if you have a very small hypothesis, because at the end, it's very difficult to imagine differently, but it's not 100% sure. But he said that the conclusion of his theorem is that if there is another singularity or many other singularity before the Big Bang, there is not an infinite number of singularities, as I said, with the cyclical universes. So we had in last year, just before he had a problem in the brain, we had an interview with Vilenkin for a series of 4 documentaries that we were doing about God and science with 10 Nobel Prize winners. And Vilenkin told us that after all the critics and all the objections that he received, he is convinced that there is a beginning and that the options of and we record him and we have the record and he allows us to diffuse it. So we will do this. We will soon make a diffusion of this interview with him. Perhaps his last interview, because just after he had, as I told you, a problem in the brain, so now he cannot make interviews. But in my opinion, it's very clear, and all the theories that try to avoid the beginning are in fact created especially in this goal. But it's very speculative and very very it's special. It's create. It's not sustaining a real examination at the end.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much for that. So, all right. So I want to switch gears to another category of your evidence. And this is another thing that was really popular in the early 2000s, I'd say, but it's sort of phased off a little bit in the pop culture. But this issue of, evolution versus intelligent design theory and the scientific evidence for that. So I know that's one of your categories that you guys deal with, group five in your book. So what's your take on intelligent design? Is it still a viable theory or, yeah?
Alors, in my opinion, it's sure that God is needed to explain life on Earth. But is it by a special action of God directly, or is it through the laws of the universe? Nobody knows at this moment. So for me, it's so impressive what we discover in physics that, for example, if you change a very, very small number of the decimals after the for example, the initial rate of expansion of the universe, or the mass and the distribution of mass and energy at the beginning of the universe is Roger Penrose, for example, said that at the beginning of the universe, in order to have galaxies, stars, and life, you need to uh, uh, calibrate the distribution of mass and energy with an accuracy of 1 10 to the power of 10 to the power of 123.
Mhm.
Roger Penrose, at the end of the 20th century, wrote an article with 3 pages of calculation about this, and he's still absolutely sure of this. It means that at the beginning of the universe, there is an incredible fine tuning, and the fine tuning is, in my opinion, a very smart explanation also for the beginning of life. Because if you look at the beginning of life, you see that during 2 billion years, you have only bacteria. Only bacteria. So in one moment, something happened by chance, but also because of the laws of nature. Without the laws of nature, you cannot have the opportunity to have life. Uh, and for example, the DNA was created perfect from the first for the first life on Earth,
Mhm.
3.8 billion years before us, and it's the only code of all the life on Earth, from the bacteria to human beings and all plants, all animals, with all the cells of all the living beings on Earth are coded by DNA. And DNA is an incredible language of a technology that we cannot uh, imagine, or what we are doing with our best scientists is a density of information 40,000 billions times less than the DNA. So the DNA is a marvel of technology that comes from the laws of the universe on Earth,
Mhm.
and allows all the life to develop by chance. But you need chance and you need programmation. The two are needed. So for me, it's the so I'm not sure that there is an intelligent action, direct action from God, but I'm sure that it's either a direct action, either the laws of the universe that are fine-tuned for life, in fact.
Gotcha. So I like how you sort of said like one of the options, the system as a whole was designed, right? At the level of the fundamental constants and that to
That's true. That's
lead to
true.
this. And okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I do want to follow up with that because I remember saying like obviously the fine-tuning argument is usually, it's fine-tuned for what? Well, for leading for carbon-based life. But I remember Hugh Ross, an astronomer or astrophysicist, I think. He also mentioned that he thinks there's proof that the universe wasn't just designed for carbon-based life, but for intelligent life, because he tries to argue we're in a specific location within the galaxy that allows us to see out. If we were closer, we wouldn't be able to see anything and stuff like that. What's sort of your take on a fine-tuning argument, not just for life, but for intelligent life? Do you think there's merit to that?
Yes. Perhaps you know Simon Conway Morris from Cambridge is one of the most well-known paleontologists on Earth. And he has a very strong theory of convergence, what he called convergence. It means that very complex organs from, for example, the human eye, uh, began appears in very different lines of evolution, and with in the for the human being, but also for different kinds of animals, and the common ancestor had not this complex organ. So at the end, he conclude that the laws of the universe are programmed from the Big Bang in order that this eye could appear during the evolution. It's very it works exactly if you like if you let ball fall from the top of a mountain. They will go down in a chaotic way, but at the end they will finish in the valley. You know where it will the end of the travel. You know. We can say that there is a programmation of the end of the game, but the way we are going to those valleys is absolutely chaotic, and we cannot make a prevision on this. So the Conway Morris said that the universe is both uh, randomness, chaos, but also programmation, and the two converge one day to intelligent life, like you said, because the human brain, is the most complex object of all the universe by far.
Fair enough. Yeah, and just what I was sort of asking about with Hugh Ross is kind of like for example, he says our location as a planet is in a very finely tuned location in the galaxy, so that we could even gain knowledge about the cosmos and stuff like that. So that's more what I was asking about. Does that make sense? Like, have you heard that argument? So he says Earth is situated in a dark and less dense part of the universe, away from galactic hazards. And this allows us to be able to see out and make all of these cosmological conclusions.
Yes, we are speaking quickly of this at the beginning of the fine-tuning chapter because, yes, we can say that we are in a privileged planet, as a documentary and the book are arguing. They are saying that we are in a very, not only because of our position, but also because of the moon, because of the volcanoes, because of many, many things. We are a very privileged planet, and we can perhaps say that it's very unique, but it's not sure because at the end you have in the visible universe you have 10 to the power of 23 stars, and we imagine today that there is in average one or two planets for each star. So there is a lot of planets, so we can imagine that our situation is there by chance, and that other planets like ours could exist in this very huge number. But so that's why we are not we did not select this question of the privileged planet in our list of 12 different fields, because we wanted to select issues that are very clear. This one is not clear because of the huge number of planets that you have in the universe. So you can say that we are in a very special place, that's sure, but it can be by chance. It can be something by chance.
Fair enough. Fair enough. All right, cool. So, yeah, I know you wanted to end. So look, before I ask my final question to you, let me ask you, is there anything that's really important that I haven't asked about that you think is important to just mention about the scientific evidence for God?
What is very important is that in our book you have a special chapter with 100 scientists. Most of them are atheists or agnostics, and they are speaking of God, they are speaking of miracles, they are speaking of incredible coincidences. And you have to read this chapter, because when you read this, you say, wow, there is something very amazing. And some very important atheists changed their mind because of the laws of the universe. You know, Einstein, for the beginning, he was not a believer, but at the end, he said that every people involved in science should one day discover that there is an incredible intelligence behind this and in the laws of the universe. And after him, a very well-known guy whose name is Fred Hoyle, he was an atheist. He was against Georges Lemaitre, because Georges Lemaitre was a priest, and he was the first to to give the theory of the Big Bang. And Fred Hoyle said, "You do this in order to match with the Genesis, with the Bible." And Lemaitre said, "No, no, no." But Hoyle mock the concept and say you cannot imagine that there is a big bang at the beginning. So the term at the very was had a great success. But after this, Fred Hoyle, who was a convinced atheist, he became a believer. And do you know why? It's because he worked on the production of carbon in the middle of the stars, what we call the triple alpha reaction. And he understands that this reaction could not occur if there is not a very special level of excited carbon because of the laws of the universe. A level of excited carbon that nobody knows in its time. And he calculated that it's a very precise value that is needed. And he called Caltech, a very important laboratory in the US, and he asked the president, he said, can you search if something like this does not exist? Because if there is not, thanks to the laws of the universe, this very precise carbon cannot be produced in the stars, so you have no carbon, no oxygen, no life, nothing. And at the end, they looked and they found exactly this value of the excited carbon. And because of this, Fred Hoyle became a believer. And he said there is a super intelligence behind all this. That's sure. Because if you change of 1% the values of the quarks, the mass of the quarks, bottom or up, 1% different, the carbon cannot be done in the stars. And many other things like this. So at the end, more and more scientists of the top level scientists discover what we are, this great reversal, that this graph, because the modern discoveries ask new question that we cannot avoid. And that changed totally the picture. So the goal of our book is to explain this to the public, to a large audience, in order that the great reversal in science achieves a great reversal in public perception.
Gotcha, gotcha. All right, awesome. And yeah, okay. So these questions are kind of, I noticed in your book, you are clear to mention that, look, this is about proving that a general theism is true, God exists. It's not about proving who is God, any kind of religion or something. But I did note that you and your co-author are Christian. So I'm just kind of curious, do you think that there is evidence suggesting who God is as well, in your personal opinion, or?
I totally agree with this, because in France, I can tell you that I'm working on a 1,000 project whose name is 1,000 Reasons to Believe in Jesus, because there is a lot of reasons to believe in Jesus also, but it's different. It's not in this book. This book concludes about the existence of God, and when you say God exists, you ask after who is God, and for this you need a revelation. You cannot do this with science, with philosophy. You need to look at the history of the humanity and ask, is there good reasons to believe in a revelation of God in order to say that it's Jesus or it's somebody else. But you need to find evidence also. And me, I'm a Catholic, and in the Catechism of the Catholic Church, in the number 31, we speak of the evidence for the existence of God. But in the number 156, I think, we speak also of the evidence of the truth of the Christian faith, that are prophecies, miracles, saints, church, many things like this.
Awesome. And I'm just curious, my audience will be interested in your take because I do I have a sort of specialization in the Shroud of Turin and the images. So I just since obviously you have expertise in physics and that sort of thing, what are your thoughts? Are you pro or con on the Shroud of Turin there?
Uh, I can let you know that I made the video that the most important success in the francophone in the French world about the Shroud of Turin. And of course, it's an amazing object. And the key point is that the image on the shroud is very, very tiny. It's something that you cannot reproduce because it's 2 microns, 0.2 microns. So, it's not only on the first part
Superficial.
of the in the 10 first percent of the lin, but it's also on every part of the lin. There is a very tiny and superficial burning, and this is impossible to reproduce today. And second, you have a lot of arguments, but there is a very interesting study published in Nature that said that the DNA of the Shroud of Turin, the most common DNA, comes from India. And in India, there is absolutely no reason, if the Shroud of Turin was done in the Middle Age, that there is DNA from India. It's only if this piece of work has been done in India, and after it came by the commercial road to Jerusalem, and after this, it was bought by um, Joseph d'Arimathie. And okay, so but I can tell you, first the very superficial image. Second, the fact that it's negative. We can also explain the carbon, the test of carbon that has been done on it, because there is not a unified level of carbon
Mhm.
in all the shroud. You have something that is increasing. That it cannot be something else that burning from a rays and not a painting and not something created by a human being.
Awesome, awesome. I fully agree. So yeah, that's it. Thank you so much for coming on. I hope you enjoyed the interview and I asked insightful questions and stuff, but definitely tune in. Check out, I will have the link to it's coming out October 14th, right? In
Exactly, exactly.
okay. And is that in Canada as well? Because I'm a Canadian, so
Yes, of course.
yeah,
In Canada, UK, Australia, India, everywhere.
sounds great. So yeah, I'll include the link and definitely check it out. It came recommended from John Lennox, so that's good enough for me. So awesome. So all right, take care and yeah, tomorrow, just for the audience, I will be having on Dr. Gary Habermas to come on about and talk about his third of the four volumes on the historical evidence for the resurrection. So we're going to be addressing some skeptical objections to that volume. So tune in for that and have a great day, everybody.
Thank you very much.